A shocking Brock Lesnar plan. WWE remove Karrion Kross signs. My review of Raw and more. I'm Ollie Davis, and this is the WrestleTalk News.
Support WrestleTalk!
Do you remember the best part of WrestleMania 41? No, not the Seth Rollins heel turn. No, not the women's three-way. Not even Stone Cold driving his buggy into a woman at ringside, although that is close. The best part of WrestleMania 41 was when Hall of Fame headliner Paul Triple H Levesque shook Bret Hart's hand. It was part of the first ever match to be inducted for his Steve Austin match at WrestleMania 13, and Bret Hart rolled his eyes at him. It's okay if you didn't remember. It was a half-second moment on an 8-hour weekend of professional wrestling. But one person likely did remember, and that person's name is Triple H, and he's been thinking about burying Bret ever since. To put it mildly, Triple H and Bret Hart have an incredibly tense relationship. Some say Triple H was the first person to pitch the screwjob angle for his best friend Shawn Michaels against Bret in Montreal. That's a super interesting story if you've never heard it before. Not many people talk about it. Bret Hart gave us here at WrestleTalk our first ever viral video back when that was a thing, when he called Triple H a 4 out of 10 wrestler. Now we might have the latest incident in their long-running rivalry, as Bret has revealed at Vaughn Comic Con. WWE invited me down to SummerSlam, told me they wanted me to be in the crowd, and then they told me once I got there, they told me they didn't have any seats. But I noticed Kevin Nash got a seat. Maybe I finally realized that I don't feel they fully appreciate me, even after Hulk Hogan's passing. There's no certain appreciation for anything I did. Speaking of Levesque maybe being petty, segue. Back in May, AEW announced their annual All Out show will be broadcast from Toronto's Scotiabank Arena on Saturday 20th of September. Not only does this mean All Out will happen outside Chicago for the first time in its history, pandemic not included, not only does it mean it will be the first All Out to take place outside the United States, it also means WWE will be announcing their own show going head-to-head imminently. Post Wrestling is reporting that WWE is planning to add a PLE to their schedule on the same day, the 20th of September, which will air from Indianapolis. If the report is to be believed, this will mark the first time a main roster PLE has been directly counter-programmed against an AEW pay-per-view, as WWE have been scheduling NXT PLEs against them on Double or Nothing, All In, and Forbidden Door this year so far. July's Saturday night's main event clash with All In only briefly overlapped. But it's not just a B-level main roster show going against AEW. Wrestling Observer Radio is reporting WWE are booking the actual biggest match they can do right now for it. The planned main event for WWE's September 20th pay-per-view going head-to-head against All Out is Brock Lesnar versus John Cena, which is why Brock's not booked for Paris, because they wanted him as a method to counter-program AEW. Following Clash in Paris on the 31st of August, the end of a European tour also presumably scheduled to undermine AEW's Forbidden Door show in London the week before, WWE only have Crown Jewel in Australia on the 11th of October and Survivor Series in San Diego on the 29th of November announced. Speaking of Paul Levesque maybe being petty, again? Karrion Kross and Scarlett Bordeaux announced their WWE contracts had expired over the weekend and claimed they are now free agents taking bookings. Kross said he felt f***ed by WWE, and it came the same day Ashante the Adonis left with his deal also not being renewed. But there's a significant amount of skepticism over whether Kross and Bordeaux have actually left WWE. There's Kross's work shoot promo from WrestleMania, there's NXT promoting his new book as recently as last Tuesday's episode, and there's Paul Levesque's seemingly current obsession working the smarks. Fightful have reported even independent wrestling promoters are doubting whether Kross and Bordeaux are actually free agents. But a new development could mean their departure is legitimate, or that it's even more of a work shoot, much love brother HH Kiss, as Kross and Scarlett have released new merchandise on Pro Wrestling Tees, which WWE typically stops their talent from doing. Kross's shirt is called Good Soldier and has the text "A good soldier defends his people" written on the back. If this is a work designed to get the audience to chant even more for his return, a la the legitimate exit of R-Truth, I don't know if it has worked. The online chatter has been more one of doubt and confusion rather than excitement, and on last night's episode of Raw, in front of a very hot Quebec audience, I couldn't hear a single "We Want Kross" chant. But in an even more confusing note, the Wrestling Observer is reporting that WWE were removing "We Want Kross" signs from the audience after a few slipped in, either implying he is gone or that it's even more of a work because I don't remember them doing that for R-Truth. Speaking of Raw, here's my review of Monday Netflix Raw. In about 5 minutes. The show opened with Michael Cole announcing that the women's champion Naomi isn't medically cleared to compete, so she won't be defending her title against Io Sky as was announced last week. It's not known whether Naomi is ill or injured, how long she might be out for, with a title defense already booked against Stephanie Vaquer at Clash in Paris, or whether this is all another goddamn work. CM Punk cut an in-ring promo to start the show proper with a great line about how once he gets his hands on Seth Rollins, he won't have to fake an injury because Punk will break his legs for him. This brought out LA Knight, who Punk had cost a world title match for last week. But Knight didn't have a problem with him. He feels for how Punk was screwed at SummerSlam, yeah, but he'll have to get behind him because Knight wants his rematch first. This was very good character work to keep both babyfaces strong, with tension over wanting the title for themselves while still being aligned against the heel faction. For now, because then the Bron, as Punk called them, interrupted, setting up a tag match for the main event. Dominic Mysterio tagged with just Uno El Grande Americano next to outwit AJ Styles and Dragon Lee once again, with Dom using the loaded mask gimmick that Grande had dropped. This was mostly a go-home match for this Friday's AAA Triple Mania show, which will be broadcast on WWE's YouTube channel with Corey Graves and JBL doing English commentary. Dom and Grande actually worked really well together, and this is a much better way to book Mysterio, giving him credibility as a champion rather than making him a Miz-style chicken S-word heel. The other Dos El Grande Americanos were nowhere to be seen though, in what's feeling like an increasingly directionless gimmick. Adam Pearce told Sami Zayn a world title match could be in his future if he could beat Rusev tonight. And what better place to do that than in Quebec, Sami's home province, where the crowd was super hot for him. And Rusev was also there. Solo Sikoa and his collectible NFTs jumped Sami near the end to cause the DQ as revenge for SmackDown. This immediately brought out Sheamus, who Sami had requested not get involved during the actual match, and they brawled through the crowd again. Pearce got the NFTs ejected backstage, and he then booked Xavier Woods in a match next week against Penta because Penta destroyed Xavier's hat. The New Day are fun, but this has been a hard fall from their all-time great heel turn last December. Speaking of heel turns, Asuka's being a bit of a twat. With no Naomi title match, Pearce booked Io Sky against Roxanne Perez. And as any wrestler should know by now, a match against one member of the Judgment Day is also a match against the rest of the Judgment Day. The Kabuki Warriors offered to be in Io's corner, but she respectfully declined. Io and Roxanne had a terrific match, with the women again having Raw's match of the night. But Asuka and Kairi ran down to help even the odds against Raquel Rodriguez's interference, but Io got distracted by them instead. Roxanne was able to roll Io up and get a shocking win with a fistful of tights. It was a great showing and a much needed win for Perez, and then Asuka shoved Io backstage afterwards, potentially signaling a heel turn for the Kabuki Warriors, especially as Rhea Ripley, who got a mega pop from the crowd despite just walking in the shop backstage, asked Sky if she can really trust Asuka, I suppose next setting up a tag match between them. Becky Lynch smartly dodged a match against Natalya, taking on her mentee Maxine Dupree instead. Unfortunately, Dupree's work rate wasn't of the amazing quality Raw's women have established over this year, and the very good crowd didn't even really react. Becky made her tap in a disarmer, and she booted Natty afterwards for good measure. But the women's stories ended on a high as Bayley teased another heel turn, cutting an intimate promo right down the lens, like what I'd hoped WWE Unreal would actually be. She spoke about how she can't win at the moment, and how it's all her fault. Bayley's delivery was excellent, and the image seemed to distort slightly near the end with a creepy, spooky laugh. The show cut back to Lyra Valkyria, who was trying not to feel responsible for saying she wants nothing to do with Bayley last week. And the main event saw LA Knight and CM Punk tag against the Bron, which Seth Rollins was definitely not here for. He said in a backstage segment earlier he was leaving early for the night, so he's causing a DQ finish now. Punk and Knight worked together really well with some fun house show spots like teaming up with a double clothesline on Bronson Reed over the top rope. But stop me if you've heard this one before. A main event is going really well, but Seth Rollins causes a lame DQ and then the Vision end standing tall to close the show. In between those two bits, we got Jey Uso trying to make the save with a steel chair, and Pearce, angry with how Seth has been manipulating the main event scene, booked Jay, Knight and Punk against Rollins in a fatal four-way at Clash in Paris, which will be fun. The babyfaces started brawling stalling, letting the Vision attack again as a cohesive unit. These endings to Raw are feeling increasingly repetitive though, and are in danger of giving the Vision the wrong kind of heat. This was a fine episode overall though, at 70%. But was John Cena's heel run the worst of all time? Watch me and Luke talk about all the missed potential in the WrestleTalk podcast by clicking the video on screen now.